Hi, my name is Jennifer Nelson Hawks. I'm a naturopathic doctor living in Jackson, Wyoming, and I have been in the health and wellness industry for a little over 24 years. And I'm coming on today because I want to give you a little bit of a personal testimony of how Solex has brought a lot of light into my life and how using different modalities that they have provided has changed a lot of my perspective. So going back to early childhood, I have always had imbalances with my hormones. It's a family, it runs in the family, so it's very genetic. And I have utilized food, I've used dietary aspects, supplementation, and it wasn't until my early 20s, or actually it was my late 20s, when I started working in functional medicine. I worked with a practitioner that utilized supplementation, blood testing, but he also had thermography in his clinic. And because I was literally the only person in there with him, I became the thermography technician. So I started doing thermography, I guess my early 30s, and use it every 6 months to a year to follow breast tissue specifically based on the fact that I do have high estrogen levels. And in doing all the thermography throughout the years, what I noticed is I would have changes in my levels depending on the time of the month, depending on what I was eating, depending on my stress levels, but it was always looking for specific patterns. So when I was introduced to Solex a couple of years ago, I was able to actually have a scanner in my hand and able to run scans on a day-to-day basis. So I was looking for different patterns that would be showing up. Now, specializing in bioresonance in my clinic in Jackson Hole, I do bioresonance scanning, but I don't do it as often as I do the AO scan because the AO scan's just so easy to use on a day-to-day basis. But what I was starting to notice were different patterns. And these patterns were showing that my estrogen levels weren't dropping even though I was eating the right foods, I was taking the right supplements. So what I did is I purchased an illuminator. I don't know if you're familiar with an illuminator, but this is this guy. And did you know that you can take an illuminator, you can go into a dark room, you can put it underneath the breast, and it will illuminate what's going on with the tissues. You can see some lymphatic flow, and you can also see veins, so you can see blood flow going throughout the breast. So I did that, and I noticed that I had some atypical scenarios going in. I didn't have the same patterns in both of my breasts. So as I do thermography every 6 months to a year, in August actually is when I went to my thermographer and noticed that there was some patterns starting to evolve, which just were telling me that my body was starting to change a little, and it's something I needed to be more proactive about. The beautiful thing is that I was able to beta test the new dental scan coming out in phase 3, which I highly, highly recommended, because it was that dental scan that actually brought everything back around. I did a dental scan and started to look for patterns. And what was happening is, even though I don't have symptomology in my mouth and I don't necessarily have symptomology throughout my body, it started to create dots and connect dots that I was not prepared to connect, because I was so focused on the fact that breast tissue means that it's only hormone related. But through watching these patterns and understanding that everything is just information, I was able to utilize that dental scan to depict where there were some imbalances coming up of excess bacteria, excess viral loads, which were creating inflammation in my body. And not only did that show that maybe this breast tissue wasn't being disturbed from just my hormones, but perhaps there were some other ailments. And that brought light to the fact that when I did thermography, which is also coming out, I've been able to beta test the thermography as well. It has blown my mind, because what it's actually showing is that I have an imbalance going on in my gallbladder. that is creating a little bit of toxicity, and it's pushing the toxicity up, which is creating imbalance in my breast tissue. So the whole takeaway from this is we're looking at the big picture here. I think we get so worried about one specific thing, and we change our thought patterns, and our thought patterns goes down these negative pathways. So utilizing the technology we have, so the inner voice helps to balance out the subconscious emotion patterns that we have, these negative thought patterns that we have. And I was stuck in that pattern. I was stuck in that, oh my gosh, something is going on with my breasts. I have cancer. But the reality is we all have cancer to some degree. But for me, it's not about that. It's about the fact that these tools that I've been able to utilize together has looked at the big picture of what's going on in my body. And now what I can do is take that information and start from one area and start working my way up. So as I am being proactive, I'm looking at how is my body draining? I'm looking at what are my foundational properties? Am I eating right? Am I getting enough sleep? What are my stress levels like? Am I drinking enough water? We have to look at everything. And again, just note that this is not about finding something bad going on in your body. This is about education and letting our body tell us letting our body tell us what's going on without us putting our mind into it, because it will if we just sit back and listen.